I wanted a Stormtrooper helmet, and I got the Sith Trooper because it looks bitchin' and it was cheap, but it doesn't fit my head even after I took a Dremel to cut a ton of material out of it. I don't know how this is showing up on camera, but my eyes are like right here, about where the mouth is. God damn it. Ow. Anyways, time for... Crystal, where the hell did you go now?
You really should keep a better eye on your pets, Shadow. As well as your women. For you, they seem one and the same.
Crap, not you!
Did you think you would walk away untested? Did you think there would be no reckoning? The first Saw game was just the beginning. Now you will play the game's sequel, or your furry friend here will pay the price for your failure. In body and soul. Now, once again, Shadow, I want to play a game.
Bring it, you Joker wannabe bitch!
Earlier this year, I took a look at the first licensed game based on the Saw movies. It was not good. Most of the gameplay was spent wandering around picking up keys, getting into combat where you utterly curb-stomped everyone in your way, getting killed instantly by shotgun traps, and every now and then solving puzzles straight out of a children's edutainment title. It was a horrible game where you just didn't really do anything, and it wasn't remotely scary, which makes it doubly hilarious that Konami was convinced that Saw would be the replacement for Silent Hill. Anyway, Konami ran into 3 huge problems with their Saw franchise. 1, it sucked ass. 2, new Saw movies were coming out annually, so Zombie Studios had 1 year at best to crank out a sequel. And 3, Konami's timing really could not have been any worse. The first Saw game didn't end up coming out until the release of the 6th Saw movie, and while Saw 6 was one of the best entries in the series, it was also the lowest grossing by a wide margin. This is due mostly to competition from the new horror flavor of the month, the first Paranormal Activity. Lionsgate saw the writing on the wall, and the 7th film, Saw 3D, was decreed to be the final film in the franchise, barring prospective reboot sequels 7 to 11 years later. So Konami rushed out a sequel to a shit game so they could leech off of a franchise that was dying. Yeah, there is no Saw 3 video game. The game opens with a man named Campbell in the jigsaw trap from the opening of the Saw 2 movie. His head is in a Venus flytrap mask, and he has to cut his eye open to get the key. You'd think that you just trace the cut that's already in his eye, but doing that, or anything really, makes him thrash and lose you valuable time. So the first puzzle in the game is more or less tracing an invisible line through trial and error. Fantastic! The whole 2 seconds of Billy the Puppet lip flaps that they made for the first game are still being recycled here, along with most of the interface. If it weren't for the new player character model, I wouldn't be able to tell which of the 2 games this is! The first stage is pretty much a tutorial, in case the art of go through hallways and solve puzzles is foreign to you. You have a shitty low-range flashlight that you can turn on with the Y button, you come across desks and chests that you can ransack for useful items, you have no shoes, and walking on broken glass still deals you cheap damage, but then you come across a few new and improved elements from the first game. To pick locks, you play a new minigame where you fly the lockpick through revolving barriers like it was friggin' Star Fox, and hacking fuse boxes will sometimes have you do a circuit puzzle where all the wires have a magnetic charge to where light-colored wires can't touch, and none of the damn pieces move! Dickheads, why would you do this? And there's the old recurring trap from the first game where you go through a door and have a quick time event to avoid being... Wait, what? Oh, that's bull! Every single booby-trapped door in the game now takes 2 quick time event presses to pass! Why would you even do that? Make the unpopular mechanic even worse! At least I get a laugh from the pendulum blade being oriented to hit Campbell square in the balls. That's far from the end of the QTEs, though. Now certain parts of the game world will have randomly collapsing floors or ceilings so that you have a short notice timed button press in the middle of walking down a hallway, or else you die. I get they wanted to spice up the endless hallway wanderings from the first game, but a sporadic, "Hey, are you awake?" slap across the face is so not the way to do it. You'd almost think they were mad people didn't like the first game and they went, "See, we could have made it worse, like this!" Anyway, Campbell is introduced as a drug dealer who's been diagnosed with terminal cancer and he wants to reconnect with his son. And then he gets crushed to death in a jigsaw trap half an hour in. No, I'm not kidding, because our actual protagonist is Michael Tapp, the son of Detective David Tapp from the first movie, who was the hero of the first game. Having failed to stop Jigsaw, coupled with the immense trauma of having been in the first game, Tapp committed suicide, and now Jigsaw has taken Michael to make him confront some dark secret about his past and to uncover the cause of his father's death.
You killed my dad. I'll find you. I swear.
Seems like Michael already knows what killed his dad. We done here? No, of course not, because it's a friggin' staple of the Saw franchise to retcon and stuff in more details about every past entry in the series. Of course, Michael was going to be on Jigsaw's hit list anyway because he smokes! Jigsaw's killed for that. I'm not joking. So yeah, gameplay is pretty much exactly the same as it was in the first one. You're locked into a series of strictly linear hallways via a sequence of locked doors, and the core gameplay loop boils down to looking for keys to advance. Mostly this process boils down to picking locked doors, doing circuit puzzles, and finding blatantly obvious combinations to locks scribbled on the walls. This time you're locked inside an abandoned hotel instead of an asylum, and then halfway through they give up and have you root through sewers and a subway instead. It's just rooms covered in trash, so unless you're Monica from Friends, I don't see how this is supposed to be atmospheric or creepy. Even if they have the floors and ceiling explode on you every now and then for a cheap quick-time event instant death. We also still have combat, as criminals that Michael's dad apprehended come looking for payback. In the first game, you could pick up weapons to duke it out with enemies by carefully timing strikes, block attacks to land counters, find revolvers to sparingly use for instant kills, or go into combat unarmed and launch a flurry of punches to stunlock everyone to death. In the sequel, quick-time events! No, I'm not kidding. There is no attack button. Every single fight in the game is a quick-time event sequence. You time a button press to block the enemy's attack, and then you have to land 3 to 5 button prompts in a row to kill them. Miss any of these prompts, and you start the sequence over and take damage. Granted, you take damage really slowly, since all of the enemies just bonk you with the handles of their weapons instead of using the pointy end. If you have a powerful weapon, you need to land fewer prompts in combat, but all of the weapons break after one damn use. Even if it's the fire axe that's built and designed to hack through entire buildings. That's one way to save time on game development. Chop out all of the combat and replace it with nothing! Although I do enjoy the fact that there is no animation for picking up weapons, so when you go to grab a pipe, bat, or whatever, it flies up into your hand like it's friggin' Mjolnir. A slight change, but one that nonetheless annoys me, is that there's no health bar unless you're nearly dead, so Michael instead has a patch on his arm that gets bloodied the more you take damage, which leads to his body hilariously sucking all the blood back in every time you take painkillers to recover health. So the combat is worse, navigation and fuse boxes are worse, are the traps at least improved from the first game? The first Jigsaw victim that you have to rescue is Henry, the chief of police whom Jigsaw accuses of corruption. He's wired a gun to blow Henry's brains out unless Michael solves a lights-out puzzle. This is literally a children's puzzle game. I had this on an LCD toy when I was 10, and now it's a puzzle in an M-rated horror game based on a hardcore torture porn slasher series. Once you've saved him, Henry runs loose in Jigsaw's maze with another cop, both trying to kill you to cover their tracks, so you have recurring boss fights with him! How could you possibly hope to take on a veteran demented cop with a gun? You take cover behind blatantly obvious walls, moving forward when he stops to reload, until eventually he runs away. They repeat this embarrassingly easy boss encounter something like 5 times. Although granted, cops in the Saw franchise are notoriously stupid. Also, you see this other cop here talking to the police chief? He vouches for Michael because Michael saved him from a jigsaw trap. A whole level before you actually save him from the jigsaw trap! Frickin' whoops! At the start of the 3rd level, Michael gets strapped with a shotgun vest, and they never really explain what in the hell this thing does. Jigsaw says that it's to keep you from escaping, and sometimes you'll just walk out into an area and the vest will start beeping until you turn around. It honestly feels like parts of the map were unfinished and they didn't have time to fix them, and their solution was just to kill you when you stumble into incomplete levels. Another mechanic I don't think they fleshed out properly are the tape recorders. You're told that tracking down one of these machines is the only way to save your game, and it's not. The game autosaves at tons of checkpoints so that you can continue from pretty much anywhere. The only possible use the tape recorders have is if you wanted to replay a section that you sucked at to try and save more healing items, except you go so friggin' long at a time without finding any recorders that any intended use they could have had is gutted anyway. The game just kind of trudges along the same familiar way: solve puzzles, find keys so that you can solve more puzzles and find more keys, riding the shitty linear railroad, walking endless hallways until something happens. The needle toilets from the first game are back, and reused so haphazardly that the animation where Tap yanks the needle out of his arm doesn't actually have him grab a needle. He pulled air out of his arm! A new trap that's repeated ad nauseum is there will be TVs on the ground flashing images, and you have to step only on specific pictures in a specific order to advance. This is easy as piss, and the cart-pushing puzzles with a perspective that barely shows you what you're doing also return, with you plunged into one with zero explanation, to where I only figured it out because I had played them in the first game. In fact, that's probably one of the biggest problems with the game in general. Saw 2 does have quite a few puzzles scattered throughout its levels that aren't recycled or rehashed from the first game. The problem is they almost never bother to explain how the friggin' puzzles actually work! I'll give you an example. One innocuous puzzle that you stumble across presents you with 8 boxes that you can open. Each one is marked with a number, but if you go to the wall opposite the boxes and shut off your flashlight, glow-in-the-dark paint will mark the numbers 2 and 5. Simple solution, I just go to open the 2 box and Jesus Christ! Okay, simple mix-up. I'm sure you have to open the 5 box first and then... What the balls is going on? So friggin' guess which number you're supposed to open. You give up? You open box number 7. Because 2 plus 5 makes 7. Jigsaw uses puzzle piece symbols all the time. That clue could have meant anything. That was pure trial and error, and every time you guess wrong, you have to sit through a loading screen and make your way back to the damn puzzle that killed you. The third boss trap is a guy in a set of vices that will crush his head and his limbs, and the puzzle to free him is this. What is this? You turn dials and sometimes lights turn on. Do you have any idea at a glance what this puzzle does? Because you aren't given a word of explanation what to do, and this shit is timed! You rotate the disc until only matching colors are touching. Simple enough. Why couldn't they just tell you that? Was Tobin Bell paid by the word and you just couldn't afford to have him actually explain any of the traps? There's a random dude you have to save from a bomb chair early on by shuffling numbers around, and I don't think you're given any clue for how you solve this one. I just kept pushing buttons until it got fixed on accident. In another early puzzle trying to save this guy Zeke, you have several mannequins marked with numbers. If you interact with them out of order, you die. There are combinations scrawled on the wall, and your only clue seems to be that the first number is 8. Seems like a simple puzzle until you search the entire area and realize none of these combinations either start or end with an 8! I, honest to crap, have no idea how you solve this other than dying over and over and over until you've guessed the combination. Or hell, just throw Michael into a poison gas maze where it is actual pure guesswork trying to figure out where to go while dying every time you make a wrong turn. This maze might actually be impossible unless you made it here with a spare healing item, but at least it didn't take me too long to figure it out and make it to the end. Oh, you son of a bitch! You're going to die near constantly from cheap and rushed design, and that's nowhere near even the worst part of the game. Now that honor goes to the thing that killed a piece of my soul every time it showed up, the Rammer. The only special enemy that they have the entire game is a guy with a spiked helmet who charges at you. Now, you've all seen this mechanic 100 times in video games, especially if you played any Spider-Man game with the Rhino, but it's friggin' baffling how badly they screwed up programming such an archetypal game boss. The Rammer charges at you, you sidestep him, he crashes into something that damages him. In theory, because unlike every other game that has ever used this mechanic, the Rammer is able to turn really easily in mid-charge. So the second that he's off screen and runs past you, he immediately turns, misses the thing that you tried to steer him into, and more often than not, he loops around and immediately hits you anyway. The entire fight is built on a mechanic and AI that doesn't freaking work. Even worse is that your movement speed is absolutely pathetic, even when you're running and you can barely maneuver around them in the first place. It is damn maddening trying to steer this slippery, agile bastard into going where you need him to go. He grinds the game to a halt for a barely functional boss fight every single time he shows up. And you fight one of these douche canoes in just about every single level. I have it in my notes running into one at least 5 times. And just to make an already abysmal fight even worse, it's not always clear what exactly you're supposed to do to damage them. The first one in the tutorial, you have to find a switch, open an elevator shaft, and lure him into falling down the shaft. Simple enough. The second one, you're supposed to fiddle with the switches to open a side room, get him inside of it, and then hope that you can switch the door shut before he gets out of it. Which took me multiple tries because the door just sprung back open. And the third one you kill by ramming him into fences that electrify at pure random, so even on the off chance that you steer him correctly, the electricity may or may not shut off before it can actually damage him. Fuck, I hate these things! And the sad part is, it feels like they were really proud of these battles, not just because they make you fight him so often, but because the rammer is the game's box art. And that's just kinda sad. These are supposed to be the most substantive parts of the gameplay, and they make you want to eject the disc into the sun! The second boss trap, you save a druggie from drowning in a tank by holding moving pipes still until the rotations line up. And this puzzle feels bugged to where you need insane precision for it to count. And the next stage, you have to work with said druggie to navigate steam pipes where it's a pure random-ass guess which ones don't kill you instantly. Culminating in a completely unexplained puzzle where you reroute and operate 3 valves, only for 2 of them to kill you instantly. Jigsaw's message of choose wisely is written in the color of the correct valve. Oh good, the shotgun tripwires are back! There's only about 5 in the entire game, but one of them went off and shot me before the prompt to disarm it had actually appeared. And not only do the shotguns not make any sound, but apparently a shotgun blast to the face isn't lethal if you've tanked up enough on pain meds. That guy that you saved with the exploding dummy puzzle comes back with swords for hands and you fight him with, say it with me now, quick time events! And why he's obsessed with killing you, the guy who saved him, instead of Jigsaw, the guy who kidnapped and cut his hands off, is not explained. The fourth hostage is a nurse attached to an elevator that'll drop and rip her in half. You save her with a number switching puzzle where both columns' totals need to balance. It takes like 5 seconds to solve. I wonder what in the hell this rotating set of blinking lights does. Are they— HOLY SHIT! Oh, you push carts onto pressure pads while dodging around the explosives. You are guaranteed not to know that. There was one utterly baffling room where the shotgun vest started beeping. I saw all of one explosion, and then a few rooms later I find a recording of Jigsaw talking to an arsonist who I never encountered.
You are obsessed with fire. An obsession that's claimed the lives of 2 people.
Was I supposed to fight a guy hucking Molotov cocktails like you do in the first game? And if so, did the game bug out and despawn him, or did they just forget to add in the fight in the first place? Later, you come to an area that just has nowhere to go until you wander around 20 minutes and somehow spot this tiny little puzzle lock hidden next to one of the doors. And after about a half dozen recycled lock and circuit puzzles, it leads to the exact same puzzle that they had for Amanda in the first game to mix a chemical bomb to blow open a door. I know that I'm just kind of jumping around at random and not giving a walkthrough, but I swear, I almost never had any sense of what I was doing, where I was going, or what my objective at any given moment actually was in this game. I just trudged through the endless hallways until something happens. Hell, one of the puzzles has you hunting around for a combination, so you find and install a fuse, have no idea what the fuse did, then solve a circuit puzzle, and have no idea what that did either. I'm just going through the motions with no clue what's actually going on. Okay, let's just walk through everything that you do in level 5. Well, actually, it's level 7 if you count the tutorial and dicking around Tap's apartment. both for some structure and so you have a general idea of how a typical level plays out. First, there's barely a puzzle where you use a crane to build a path to a switch. The box, I can't help but notice, doesn't cast a shadow in the floodlight. And then you have a color puzzle. Screw around some hallways, have another circuit puzzle, then you go down to the sewers, mainly because it's the only place you can go. Fight one dude, come to an electric door, so you pick a lock and do a polarized circuit puzzle to get through it. There's a puzzle here where you swap numbers around while a guy on a retracting chain tries to kill you. I had a pure guess that the red slant logo meant to arrange the numbers low to high, and it worked. You find a combination that reads 752, then find a hidden marking of an 8, and come across a rotating lock puzzle where the solution is some ass backwards randomized combo of those numbers that took several minutes to guess! Son of a bitch, I didn't realize until editing that you were supposed to be tracking what color each number was written in. Fight a dude whose face is frozen into a dirt because they didn't have time for facial animations. Jigsaw shows up to mock you that he saves people from themselves, and just to immediately show how much he sucks at it, you have another fight with Senor Knifey Hands who's out to kill you for saving his life. Or, to give Zeke his proper superhero name, the Amazing Boogeyman! What's supposed to happen is he chases you through a series of hallways where you use QuickTime events to gradually damage him. What actually happens is that you can easily miss the first QTE prompt, he can easily trap you in the starting area. I at one point trapped him inside of a closing door, which later led to his AI breaking down to where he bunny hop moonwalked backwards after me. At one point the game misread a QTE and I died despite having done it correctly, and there's a dead-end path where Zeke kills you because you guessed wrong on trial and error. And even if you make it to the end of the path, Zeke just kills you automatically in a cutscene with no explanation. Because you were supposed to magically spot a tiny little lever stashed in the corner that sets up a trap and kills him, somehow, since his model clearly warps out of the trap in the cutscene. This game is shit! But as bad as that buggy half-finished mess of a boss was, at least it wasn't another rammer. So you're told to go to the furnace, in a sewer, for the next boss trap, but I need a key, so 2 circuit puzzles, find a combination, and no! Another fight with a rammer! But this one is upgraded with spikes in his chest, where you need to steer him into wooden boxes so he gets stuck, and desperately look for weapons, and hope that he doesn't trap you in the corner where there's nowhere the hell to go! Next is the exact same matching puzzle as from the first game, and then the boss trap is a basic cart pushing puzzle, and really? You just recycled the matching puzzle, and now you're recycling the recycling. That was an entire hour-long level. And did you notice that most of it was aimless wandering, recycled mechanics, and bullshit? Throughout the game you find Detective Tapp's case files and audio logs filling in what he was up to during the first movie, and midway through the game the pieces start to come together. Michael's career in journalism was launched by a hit piece on his own father, stealing his personal notes for an expose that ruined his dad's career and got him fired. All for payback at Tapp for leaving his family to focus on police work. Michael never once expresses regret for betraying and ruining his dad's life, and refuses to acknowledge that he did anything to his dad in the first place. And when you rescue the 5th Jigsaw victim, a criminal money launderer, he lays out the rest of what's been going on. Tapp stumbled across a drug ring being run out of the police station and was inches away from blowing up the whole corruption scandal when Michael demolished his career, ensuring that everyone involved escaped justice, including a bunch of crooked cops. So Michael's selfish quest for revenge made him complicit in a cartel, the members of whom are the victims in Jigsaw's traps. Honestly, if they had Michael actually confront his own actions, this would have made a pretty good Saw movie. If they took out the gigantic flaming plot hole. See, the case files that you collect spell out crystal clear that Tapp didn't discover the cartel until long after Michael's article. So Jigsaw's big ironic lesson that everything is Michael's fault is complete bullshit. Between not explaining the puzzles and the entire crux of the plot being a time paradox, I'm beginning to think that Tobin Bell's audio was literally the first thing they did, and they couldn't get him back to change shit when the game and the script were updated later. The case files also indicate that Tapp had full-ass figured out who Jigsaw is, but tossed away his mountain of evidence because the first movie still has to happen. This is what happens when fanfiction writers try to retcon their favorite characters to make them more important. The last level kinda screams, "We ran out of time" from its every pore. Druggy Lady tells you that Pigman is someone that Michael knows who's connected to the investigation. Yeah, we never fight him or find out who it is. The crooked police chief that's been one of the main villains hunting you down the entire game? Yeah, he just kinda gets randomly killed off by Pigman with no fanfare. I'd swear they introduced 2 cop villains early on and just didn't have time to program fights with both of them. The game has bonus puzzles to unlock collectible Billy puppets, and the puzzles are designed to be balls-achingly hard. But the Billy puzzle in this final level is a wall of clocks with the number 50 next to it. That could mean anything, you assholes! And they recycle the chemical mixing and picture matching games from the first game again. And that's all without the screen tearing or how objectives from the previous level flash up on screen at one point. The cops kill off all the remaining characters to tie up loose ends, and you have 2 more rock-simple take cover and run forward fights, one of which has the dumb bastard keep shooting the walls long after you've left the arena. And sometimes he has a clear shot and is obviously hitting you, but you don't take damage because cover is magic. And there's another melon farming fight with a spiked rammer, where you have to get him to stick into boxes in a tight space with 0 room to maneuver around him, and find the time to operate a crane to drop on his head. Although I will admit, it is pretty satisfying pulping him into tomato soup. There's a puzzle room where the shotgun vest starts going off and killing you for no friggin' reason, although the shotgun vest effects are pretty neat. You're left to guess that it's reacting to these things on the wall that you need to shut off. It's like they forgot that they haven't used or introduced this mechanic anywhere else in the damn game. The shotgun carousel was popular in Saw 6, so they have their own version where you walk around spotlights that set off the vest. And there is so little room to maneuver that there are a ton of dead zones where you get stuck. You can't see behind you to know if you've cleared or backed into one. And as you can see from this death, they get set off if a centimeter off your back heel grazes the light. The game is really friggin' picky about what sets the damn thing off. And you kill the other crooked cop with quick time events. I'm sure that you're stunned by this. Michael reaches the end of his trial, and Jigsaw gives him a trademark final speech.
You hated dirty cops in their drug cartel.
Again, not true by any remote stretch or definition!
You got more than you bargained for. Driving your father to suicide.
Really? 'Cause I found the last audio file about 20 seconds ago. Let's play some of it, shall we?
I can't let go of this obsession with Jigsaw. Trying to find him just results in more people getting hurt. This is my only solution.
Seems a lot like it's Jigsaw's fault, bro! After the final boss trap of crossing a single balance beam, Jigsaw tries to convince Michael to join him as his new apprentice.
Your test was to bring justice. You've proven that you can see beyond the lies that people wrap themselves in to the truth.
Oh yeah, because Jigsaw's all about truth and justice. He's like frickin' Batman. Unless, of course, you count the times he ordered a mother and child killed over a husband's affair, killed several innocent cops for doing their jobs, tortured people to death over a freak car accident, then tortured more innocent people to death over being attached to an author that he had a personal grudge against, murdered all those office workers for being in the wrong industry, and blackmailed Hoffman to where he murdered like all of the FBI on Jigsaw's behalf. He's freaking Superman!
Seems to me that if Michael's test was to see through lies and seek justice, he'd flip Jigsaw the bird and walk out. Regardless, Jigsaw gives Michael the same choice from the first game. Freedom or truth. Leave or become the next Pigman. And of course, I decide to... Wait, what? Credits? It cuts off before you can make a choice? They knew that the franchise was ending and they still left it off on a damn cliffhanger? But how will I know whether or not Michael joined up with the psycho killer who made him walk through acid barefoot and locked him inside multiple poison gas mazes? I need answers, damn it! Rest assured, though, the game does still have 2 endings like the first one. They're just implemented in one of the most dickish ways that I've ever seen. You remember that guy Campbell that we played as way back in the game's tutorial? At the end of the tutorial, Jigsaw gives Campbell an elevator that he can use to escape and reunite with his son. But if he does, it will kill someone his son's own age a floor above him. You can have Campbell make it to that elevator instead of getting killed like I did, and it results in Michael being trapped and murdered at the end of the game. The decision that determines which ending you get comes half an hour into an 8-hour campaign. You have to replay the entire damn thing from scratch to see both endings. And if you followed your natural instincts and had Campbell survive at the start, then you blew 8 hours on Michael only to watch him die anyway. So not only did you trudge through the entire game for nothing, but Jigsaw is an imbecile who foiled himself by building a huge maze to train his apprentice, only to kill him inescapably 5 seconds later. Oh, and Campbell dies anyway in the alternate ending, so... Whoops.
Game over.
Saw 2 Flesh and Blood is a friggin' terrible game. Most of the puzzles are either recycled crap or pure unexplained trial and error. Damn near everything in the game, from traps to combat, revolves around garbage QuickTime events. The one new enemy that they added is so poorly implemented and designed that he's maddening to fight. The recurring boss battles and boss puzzles are all jokes, and the story is so slapdash that it can't keep track of its own timeline and drops plot threads at a moment's notice. But as horrible as the game is, I can't help but be sympathetic to the developer's position. I have never seen a game's ending credits blazed by as quickly as Saw 2's do. Literally 44 seconds of still frames with long lists that fade out before you can read them. I think the devs knew that the game was bad and were embarrassed by it, but had to push it out regardless for Papa Konami. You can tell they tried their best to fix problems from the first game, removing the broken combat options, swapping out a lot of timed trap rooms for battles with recurring villains to try and make the game livelier, making collectibles actually relevant information, and toning down the tripwires. But almost every change just made the game worse because they didn't have time to develop their fixes properly. And they had to recycle a ton of content because it was either that or not have a game. This whole debacle is squarely on Konami for forcing a dev team to crunch out a AAA release in less than a year, which is kinda insult to injury when you remember that Konami basically hijacked the first game and ruined its design in the first place. So the moral of the story is... Konami sucks, yo.
You have passed your test and still not learned your lesson. You have no concept of the harm that your words can inflict. Innocent employees slave away, abused by their bosses to appease corporate interests, only for their hard work to be torn apart by ungrateful players like yourself. Perhaps you will understand this pain if it's inflicted onto someone that you care about. What was that noise?
How's it hanging? I'm David Pumpkins, and I'm gonna scare the hell out of you.
I'm meant to be afraid of someone so desperate that they stole Doug Walker's jacket for cheap recognition?
You can call me fat. You can call me bald. You can call me an unfunny hack. But don't you ever compare me to Doug Walker. Cause I'm David Pumpkins, man. I'm my own thing. And you are not part of it. Happy Halloween, y'all! Crystal, you're safe. And you, where the hell have you been? Oh, it's so good to have you back. You've got tape residue all over your face. I think we need a nice hot bath. Just...